Most people who want to start a podcast begin by shopping for a microphone, then recording software, then editing tutorials, then intro music, cover art, publishing platforms. A week later, they own a microphone and 0 episodes. I started with a different question. What part of this actually needs me? Not the recording, not the editing, not the exporting. A machine can do all of that without getting tired or getting worse. The only part that needs me is the judgment. What to say, how to structure it, whether the argument survives being said out loud. So that became the rule for the whole project. I keep the judgment, I engineer the rest. Here is what the engineered part looks like. I write a script, I drop it into a folder, I pick a voice, I run one command, and the first thing the system does is nothing. It checks whether there is any work. No new text, no server. A file that already has audio gets skipped. I did not add that check to be clever. I added it because compute should exist because work exists. If there is work, a graphics machine wakes up on Amazon Web Services. The script updates the security setting, waits for remote access, starts the voice service, and pushes my local voice folder to the server. Then it splits the text into sentences, feeds them to 2 voice workers, and joins the finished pieces in order. Then the machine turns itself off. I never asked it to stay on, just in case. Just in case is how cloud builds are made. I learned that the way everyone learns it. I once left a graphics machine running overnight with nothing to do. The cloud was not expensive. Forgetting to turn it off was. But the money was not the real loss. The real loss was that for weeks, some part of my head was assigned to remembering that machine. Is it on? Is it billing? Did I close it? People think the cloud costs money. Mostly it costs attention. And attention leaks more quietly than money. So shutdown is not a feature in this project. Shutdown is the default, and there is a status script, one command that tells me whether the machine is up, what it has cost so far, how busy the graphics card is, and whether both voice workers are answering. I refuse to manage a machine by feeling. A machine I have to think about when I am not using it is a machine that owns me. Now the first version of all this simply worked. I remember being satisfied for about 1 day. Then I understood that working was not the finish line. Working was the entry ticket. A demo has to succeed once, in front of you, on a good day. A production line has to succeed on the 10th run, unattended, on a bad day. Everything I am about to describe is the distance between those 2 sentences. Start with the compile option. Compiling the model makes startup slower and warm up longer. In exchange, every minute of generation after that is much faster. For a chat system, that trait would be wrong. For long-form audio, it is exactly right. Waiting is not always waste. Waiting without purpose is. This wait buys the whole day's throughput, so I pay it gladly. Then parallelism. The machine has one 48 GB graphics card, and I run 2 voice worker processes on it. I assumed 2 workers would mean twice the work. Hardware rarely rewards optimism, it rewards understanding. 2 processes on one graphics card politely take turns. It looks like parallel work and performs like a queue. The card was not being shared. It was being passed back and forth. NVIDIA has a multi-process service for exactly this situation, and turning it on is the difference between the second worker existing and the second worker mattering. The 2 workers also do not start together. They start one after another. Loading and compiling a model creates a memory spike, and 2 spikes at the same moment can take the whole machine down. Nothing in the documentation told me that. The machine told me that. Staggered startup is not elegant. It is true for this hardware, and I would rather be true than elegant. Then scheduling. Who gets the next sentence? My rule is simple. Work should move toward idle resources, never the other way around. So the client holds a small pool of work tokens. A busy worker naturally takes less. An idle worker gets the next piece immediately. And if the second worker is still warming up when the job starts, the client does not stand at the door waiting. It starts generating with the first worker and keeps checking on the second. The moment the second worker is ready, it joins the job already in progress. A late worker is a worker. A waited-for worker is a delay. After all of this, the line runs at about 1.4 times real time, 10 minutes of finished audio in a little over 7 minutes. But the number I actually care about is a different one. Of those 7 minutes, my share is 0. The graphics card grinds through the whole job, and it does not need encouragement, breaks, or a second take. GPUs do not run out of patience, people do. So I spend the machine's patience and keep my own. Now the weakness, because there is one, and hiding it would make this a sales pitch. From cold start to first sound takes 6 to 8 minutes. Boot the machine, wait for access, load the model, warm up the compiled code. So this system is a terrible way to say one sentence. If you need a single voice line for a phone reminder, use an online service and do not look back. This line earns its keep on batch work. A full podcast script, a stack of articles, a chapter of an audiobook, spread 8 minutes of warm-up across 2 hours of audio, and the warm-up disappears. I did not build a tool for every job. I built a tool that knows which job it is for. Then there is the voice folder. On disk it is just directories. Each one holds a short clean recording and its matching text, and that pair is a voice identity the system can speak as. Adding a voice is dull on purpose. Drop the files in the folder. If the server is down, the next startup carries them over. If the server is up, one sync script delivers them and nothing restarts. I do not want to spend human attention managing files. Attention goes into choosing the voice, not delivering it, because the folder is the least interesting part. The interesting part is what it slowly becomes. Commercial platforms will rent you a beautiful voice. A rented voice can read your words. It cannot become part of your identity. The pauses, the rhythm, the way a sentence lands, those accumulate into something listeners recognize before you say your name. Text carries the idea. Voice is what people remember. Whatever becomes your identity, you should own. So my voices live in my folder as files I can copy, back up, and carry anywhere. Applications should borrow voices. Voices should not belong to applications. The same thinking decided the biggest choice in the project. Why fish speech? Honestly, the model matters less than people think. It is open, it is good, and it runs on hardware I control. But I never optimized for today's model. I optimized for the day I replace it. The pipeline does not care what generates the audio. Text goes in, sentences fan out, audio comes back, pieces join in order. The machine shuts down. Swap the model, keep the line. Swap the instance type, keep the line. Add a second machine someday, keep the line. Models are tenants. The production line is the building. That is also why the whole thing goes on GitHub free. Not because the code is precious, because the decisions are portable. Start only when there is work. Stop the moment there is not. Trade warm-up for throughput when the job is long. Move work toward idle resources. Own what becomes your identity. Choose components you can leave. Someone will take this and make audiobooks. Someone will wire it to a company knowledge base. Someone will rip out fish speech the day something better ships, and the line will not notice. Good. There is one more principle underneath all the others, and it is the real reason this project exists. I do not optimize for demonstrations. I optimize for repetition. A demonstration has to impress someone once. Repetition has to survive me on my worst week. That is why I distrust any workflow that depends on being in the mood. I trust habits more than motivation. Motivation records episode 1. Habit records episode 50. And a habit can only form when the cost of each repetition keeps falling. Every manual step in a process eventually becomes technical debt. Not in the code, in the person. Set up the room, watch the levels, re-record the stumble, cut the silence, export, name the file. Each step is small, and together they are the reason most podcasts have 3 episodes. So I do not design for the first episode, I design for the 10th. By the 10th episode, the excitement is gone, and only the process remains. If an episode costs an evening, the 10th episode never gets written. If an episode costs 1 script and 1 command, the 10th episode is just Tuesday. So my whole podcast setup is this: a text file, a folder of voices that belong to me, a machine that exists only while it works, and 1 command. Everything that needs judgment I kept. Everything else I engineered. I still do not own a good microphone.